15 things you need to know when making a move to Powder Springs, Georgia. Hello friends, welcome to my Living in Marietta, Georgia channel. If you're new to this channel, it's all about what it's really like to live in Marietta, Georgia and surrounding areas. What it's like to live, eat, sleep, play, and everything in between. And if you're not new here, welcome back. So please hit the like button to help others to find this video more easily. Hit the subscribe button and tap the bell so you get notified each time I upload a new video. My name's Dan Hilsman and I'm a real estate broker. We get so many calls from people reaching out to us about their move to Marietta, Georgia and surrounding areas, and we absolutely love it. And you can get on a call with me too. So if you'd like to talk, give me a call, send me a text, an email, or skip all that and go straight to the front line by scheduling a Zoom call using the calendar link in the description below. However you want to get a hold of me, I've got your back when making a move to Marietta, Georgia and surrounding areas. Are you looking to make a move to Powder Springs, Georgia? Then you'll want to stay tuned to this video for the 15 things that I think are super important for you to help you make that move. Be sure to stick around for number 10. Might surprise you a little bit, and number 15 will definitely be a surprise to you. So that said, let's get started and let's look at number 1. Number 1 is how close to the school zoning lines are you? So this is really important. So in Powder Springs, Georgia, you're going to want to make sure that if you're moving to a certain neighborhood or a certain home just for that school district, you're going to want to make sure that that's still, that you're not real close to those zoning lines. So my wife and I, we have 2 children. About 2 years after the move to our house that we moved to for the school district, a certain high school district that we wanted our son and daughter to go to, we got a letter saying, hey, we're looking to have a school zoning line change, which was going to change his high school, or their high school, son and daughter's high school. So we had to get, start signing petitions and get to work with the neighborhood and the community to try to have that not happen. Luckily, it did not happen, so we were able to not have that zoning change for the school district, but it would have been a big problem. So that school was a 6 at the time. The high school that our kids were going to go to was a 9. More importantly, they were going there for education and for sports, so probably would have had to move, which would have been pretty costly and kind of a nightmare. So you'll definitely want to know the school zoning lines if you have certain schools that you're going to put your children into. So if you're doing this for a certain school reason, you want to make sure you're not right on the school zoning line, because those could change. So if you need more help with that, let me know. I have personal experience with that, and I do live in Powder Springs now, so I can help you with that. And now let's look at number 2. Number 2 is the traffic in and out of the area, so to get to where you're going, so in and out of the neighborhood. So what you'll want to do is have different options to get to different places from the home. So sometimes, like where I live now, there's a lot of good back roads. So I can go right, I can go left, I can take other turns to get to the main roads that I'm going to. And that's pretty much real common in Powder Springs, is there's different options to get to where you're going. So luckily, not just one way all the time, but go ahead and have those plan B and plan C already laid out, and make sure that you have a plan B and plan C, because traffic can be kind of bad. And then also if there's road work done, you don't want to in an area where you're going to have long-term road work, only one way in and one way out. Could be a big problem for you. So now let's look at number 3. Number 3 is you're going to want to drive to work prior to going under contract from that home or that neighborhood. So that'll give you a feel for, what the traffic's like even more outside of the neighborhood. Because you can drive from a neighborhood to a work destination at 1 o'clock in the day or on a Saturday, and it's going to be a totally different commute than if you go in the morning. And then also looking at what time you go in the evening. For a while there, when I did mortgages many years ago, and I would pretty much leave at 3:30, or I wouldn't leave till 7. And the reason for that is I could get a lot of work done just sitting in the office as opposed to sitting in traffic. So once I knew that, then it made a little difference on our next move, and you want to definitely keep that in mind. So I would suggest that you drive to work or to wherever you have to go to during the time that you would have to go prior to going under contract. So number 4 is, what time do the buses run for school in the neighborhood? Now this is pretty important as well. Recently in my neighborhood, I did get caught behind a bus. It wasn't a real big deal, but it was about a 5-minute ride from the amount of time that it took me to get behind that bus. So now I know, there's certain times that the exact times that I don't really want to get behind a bus, or if I see a bus coming, I want to probably turn around and go the other way to get out of the neighborhood, because I don't want to get stuck for 5 minutes getting out of my neighborhood that could take me 1 minute to get out. So that's number 4. Now let's look at number 5. Number 5 is, you're going to want to go ahead and have the child care in place. So if you're buying in a neighborhood and you're going to have child care outside of the home, you want to go ahead and have that registered and taken care of, because what you don't want to do is move into the neighborhood in the area and have that on the way to your work for a child care drop off, and then right after you buy the house to find out that they no longer have openings. So if you're doing in-home child care, that's super important. You want to have that done ahead of time. Go ahead and have them registered, the deposit put down, so you can reserve that spot, because they do sometimes fill up and it could be a big problem. If you're going to have in-home child care, there's some great in-home child care options. My daughter currently is a college student, and she has picking up some really good opportunities with in-home child care. So reach out to me. I can maybe point you in the right direction there. I want to be my daughter, but we can let you know what she knows and what site she uses to maybe be of help to you there. But like I said, if you're doing childcare outside of the home, don't just find them. Go ahead and have that in place, so that's not a big problem, because at the last minute you don't want to hear that they're full and have to scramble around for plan B. Number 6 is, you're going to want to have plan B and C, backdoor options for getting to where you have to go to work if you have to be there at an exact time, or school, or just wherever it is you have to go. So go ahead and have your options laid out. Like I said, at my home right now, currently our family does live in Powder Springs. So, I know that sometimes during the day, hey, I better go right and then take a right instead of going out left. So a lot of different options, a lot of great back road areas, but make sure that you're not just one way in, one way out, and that you do have your options laid out. So if you need to turn around and go the other way, you can do that. And then also that'll help you with your move and commute initially, and knowing what kind of options you have, make your life and move a little bit smoother. So now let's look at number 7. Number 7 is, go ahead and research your school ratings. So greatschools.org is a site that I look at a lot. So go ahead and nose those school ratings. Go ahead and look at some history, see if they're fairly consistent ratings, and go ahead and do your research on the school ratings. That'll be super important to you, super important to your family, give you a good idea of what you're looking at there. And then that way also you can pick. In Marietta currently 9 to 6 for the high school's ratings, so kind of a big difference there. So you want to dig a little deeper into that and see why some are 9, 10, 8s and 6s, 6 through 10. So just have a look at that, and then see there's some good options for 7. 7 is actually a pretty good school right now. I'm not sure why the school I'm thinking of has a 7 rating. But the couple of 9s and the 10s, go ahead and dig deeper into that and see which one might be a better fit for you. Number 8, do you want to rent your home in the future? So if you're going to buy a home and you think you're going to live there for a certain amount of time, and then someday turn that into a rental home or rent that out or do an Airbnb, you need to know that ahead of time, because there's certain HOAs that are not going to let that happen. If that's a plan, we probably need to get you in one of the homes, and there are a lot of home options not in HOAs, but some of the HOAs do allow that, so it could be something that you could do. But in the HOAs that do allow it, sometimes they also have a percentage of number of the homes, maybe 75 or 80% have to be owner occupied. If it's below that, then you cannot rent your home. If it's below that, you can get on a list, but go ahead and try to figure out ahead of time, is this a home that you're going to live in and then someday sell and then buy another home? If you're sure that it's a home that you're going to live in and want to turn it into investment property or rent it out from time to time, or Airbnb, I need to know that ahead of time, or you're going to be disappointed in finding out that the HOA is not going to let you do that. So that's super important. Number 9 is the HOA. You want to read the rules and regulations. So go ahead and get a hold of a copy of those so you can read those up front, especially if you're not a big fan of a lot of rules. So, for instance, some of the rules in Powder Springs that you're going to run into is the, if your yard's a little bit too high, if you have too many weeds in your pine island, if you don't have fresh pine straw in your pine island, you have cars parked outside, things like this. If you're not big on the rules, or you don't want to get these letters or threats or fining threats from the HOA, then you're going to want to know what you can and can't do ahead of time. And then you want to be able to navigate around that so that when that, so that you don't have any surprises. So if you're not a big fan of the rules and regulations, probably don't want to be in some of the HOAs in Powder Springs. It's the highway. So how close to the highways are you? Great to be close to the highways. From Powder Springs, you can get to 3 highways pretty fast. So how quickly do you need to get there if you're going to work in town? We have a lot of pilots that live in and around Powder Springs because they can get to the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport rather quickly. And then there's a couple different ways to get there. So how far and how quickly can you get to the highways? And then also, if you're at the closer end of the highways, you may have more traffic than if you're at the back or in the middle end of the highways in Powder Springs. Number 11 is public transportation. So do you need public transportation? Are you planning on using public transportation? Because if you are, Powder Springs is probably not a fit for you. Now, we do have a Cobb Link, which is a bus system that runs through Cobb County, which Powder Springs is in Cobb County. But you know what? Part of Powder Springs is not in Cobb County. So it's in Paulding County. So if you're looking at the public transportation, need to use that at all, get with me. I'll be happy to go over with you which part of Powder Springs you might live in. If you're going to use that a lot, it might be a different city, might get you over into Smyrna or a different part of Cobb County, which is still very close to Powder Springs. But you want to have if public transportation is important to you, you need to know that ahead of time. Number 12 is how close is your home to wherever you, as far as groceries or medical, things like that. So my home in Powder Springs, we're just a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes from 2 different grocery stores, but we're not all that close to medical, as far as not nearly as close as the grocery stores anyway. So part of Powder Springs is over closer to part of Austell, where Cobb General Hospital is. Part of Powder Springs is a little closer into Marietta Kennesaw area, where Kennestone Hospital is. Now, there are a lot of office buildings close to close to Powder Springs in Marietta and surrounding areas, but if that's important to you, you're going to want to know how close your home is. Go ahead and have it laid out for your groceries and medical. Okay, number 13 is also churches. We have lots and lots of churches. We're in the South. If you go to church, if church is super important to you, and if you have your church picked out ahead of time, then we're going to want to know, what that commute looks like. So it's usually not bad on Sunday mornings, but are you going to be going to your church, Wednesdays? Are you going to want to go do volunteer work at your church? If that's the case, then you want to see, how far the commute is to that church from the neighborhood or the home that you're going to buy. Go ahead and know that up front, so that's not a surprise to you either. Now let's look at number 14. Number 14 is you're going to want to know the things that you like to do for fun. Being in the South, we're outdoors a lot. We have a lot of things you can do outdoors, but even if it's indoor activity, what do you or your family like to do for fun? So are we close to the lakes? Are we close to trails? Some great sporting events near, Atlanta Braves play in Smyrna, which is very close to Powder Springs. Powder Springs is kind of a weird, long-shaped city area. So, let's get you close to the things that you're going to want to do for fun in Powder Springs. So if it's theaters, do you like the nightlife or restaurants? Are you a foodie? You want to be close to restaurants? So there's different areas, different communities, neighborhoods we can get you into that are close to the fun things that you and your family like to do. So we can plan that out. That's not a problem to plan that out ahead of time. So number 15 is how close are you to the train tracks? So we have trains that run through Cobb County and in Powder Springs, And some of the neighborhoods, if you saw one of my videos, neighborhood video for Powder Springs, and in that neighborhood is a townhouse community. There's a train track that is within about 100 yards of the closest townhouse to the train. Now the train goes very slow there, but that's something you want to know ahead of time, right? So also in Powder Springs with the train, even if you're not very close to the train track, you can hear the train track. For some reason, the sounds travel at night. I'm probably 7 miles, 10 miles from the train track. Every now and then at night, though, faintly in the distance, I can hear the train horn. So not a big deal. I'm not very close at all, not enough to bother me or be a resale value concern. But if I was a little bit closer, half as close to the train track, that might be a concern or a bother for you, or even a resale issue. So you want to know how close you are to the train tracks. Is your neighborhood close to the train tracks, and can you hear those trains at night if that's a big concern for you or something like that? So there's a lot of great parts of Powder Springs. There's some things you need to know. Hopefully these 15 things were helpful to you. I'm Dan Hillsman. I love helping people with their move to Powder Springs and surrounding areas. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. You can give me a call, text, and email, schedule a Zoom call in the calendar link below. However you want to get a hold of me, I've got your back when making a move to Powder Springs, Georgia, or surrounding areas.